The red dust of Xerxes III swirled in slow circles under the twin suns. It coated everything. The landing struts of the human dropship, the cracked stone ruins in the distance, and the boots of Lieutenant Lisa Carter as she paced inside the command dome. Her face was tight with anger. Her jaw clenched so hard it ached. Across the room stood Vera, the last known Kalari warrior. She was tall with skin like dark glass that caught the light in strange ripples. Her eyes glowed amber and never blinked. She said nothing. Just watched. Lisa stopped pacing. She turned sharply. "You knew the resonance core was down there," she said, her voice low but sharp like broken glass. "You let us send a team into that ruin. You let them die." Vera tilted her head slightly. Her four-fingered hands rested calmly at her sides. "I did not let them do anything human. Your people chose to go. I warned them." "Warned them," Lisa snapped. "You called it a myth. A ghost story. Then when Jenkins and his squad vanished, you suddenly remembered it was real." "I said it was not." "For the unready," Vera replied. "Your team carried weapons, not questions. They sought power, not truth." Lisa's hands balled into fists. "We came here to help you. To rebuild, not to get slaughtered by some ancient trap." "It is not a trap," Vera said softly. "It is a mirror." Lisa let out a bitter laugh. "A mirror that kills anyone who looks into it. Great. Real helpful." At that moment, a quiet clank echoed from the corner of the dome. Both women turned. Daniel stood there. He had been silent the whole time, leaning against the wall in his navy blue exo armor. He was Lisa's second-in-command, her oldest friend since basic training. Now he pushed off the wall and walked toward them. His movements were slow, heavy. "You don't get it, do you, Lisa?" he said, his voice rough. "Get what that she's been lying to us this whole time?" Lisa shot back. "No," Daniel said. "That she's been trying to protect us from what? From the truth." Lisa's voice rose. "We're soldiers, Daniel. Truth is our job. Not all truth is meant to be dug up like Daniel said. Some truths are graves." Lisa stared at him. "Since when did you start talking like a poet?" "Since I stopped thinking like a soldier," he answered. "I've been reading the Kalari texts, the ones Vera gave us weeks ago. You never opened them, did you?" Lisa looked away. She hadn't. She'd been too busy running drills, checking comms, planning evac routes. She assumed the texts were just history. Useless. "They're not history," Daniel said, as if reading her mind. "They're warnings. The Kalari didn't fall to war. They fell to silence. They stopped sharing their pain. Stopped listening. And when grief had nowhere to go, it turned inward. It ate them alive." Vera nodded slowly. "The resonance core was built to hold that grief, to keep it from spreading. It is not a weapon. It is a vault of sorrow." Lisa shook her head. "That's beautiful and all, but Jenkins is still dead. So are Ramos and Choi, vaporized. No bodies, no signal, just gone. You expect me to believe they were killed by sadness? They touched the core without understanding," Vera said. "Without respect. The core does not kill. It reveals. And what it revealed was too much for them to carry." Lisa scoffed. "So it showed them a sad movie and their hearts gave out." "It showed them everything," Vera said. "Every loss, every regret, every moment they tried to bury. Your people are not trained to hold such weight. You armor your bodies, but not your souls." "That's enough," Lisa snapped. "I didn't come here for a philosophy lesson. I came for answers. And you've been hiding them." "I have been waiting for you to ask the right question," Vera replied. Lisa's patience snapped. "Fine. Here's my question. Why should I trust you at all? You've done nothing but speak in riddles while my people die. You call yourself a warrior, but you won't fight. You won't explain. You just stand there like a statue watching us stumble into your ghosts. If that's honor, then your whole species deserve to vanish." The words hung in the air like smoke. Vera did not flinch, but something in her eyes dimmed. Just slightly. Behind Lisa there was a sound. Metal on metal. Soft but clear. She turned. Daniel was taking off his armor. First the chest plate, then the arm guards, then the greaves. Each piece he set down gently on the floor. When the helmet came off, his face was pale, his eyes tired. He looked at Lisa not with anger but with disappointment. After her harsh words, the human set down his armor and stormed away. He walked past her without a word. The dome door hissed open and shut behind him. Lisa stood frozen. She hadn't meant. She hadn't expected. She turned back to Vera. "He'll go to the ruins," she said. "He'll try to reach the core." "Yes," Vera said. "And he'll die." "Perhaps," Vera said. "Or perhaps he will finally listen." Lisa's chest tightened. Daniel wasn't reckless. But he was stubborn, and if he believed the Corps held answers, he wouldn't stop. "Why didn't you stop me?" she asked suddenly. "Why let me say those things because you needed to say them?" Vera answered, "And because someone needed to hear them." Lisa looked at the pile of armor on the floor. It looked empty, hollow, like a shell. "I have to go after him. Not with weapons." Vera said, "Not with orders. Go as a friend." "Not a soldier." Lisa hesitated. Her whole life had been about control, about command, about knowing the right move. This felt like stepping off a cliff, but Daniel was out there alone. And if Vera was even half right, the Corps wasn't something you fought. It was something you faced, all right, Lisa said. "No guns, no armor. Just me." Vera nodded. Then she walked to the weapons locker and removed her own blade, a slender curved thing that hummed faintly. She placed it on the table. "We go together," she said. Lisa stared. "You're coming, someone must guide you through the song," Vera said, "and someone must be ready to carry you back if the memory is too heavy." Outside the dome, the wind picked up. Red dust danced in the fading light. The ruins loomed in the distance like broken bones. Somewhere in that maze, Daniel walked toward a light that had swallowed 3 soldiers whole. Lisa took a deep breath. Then she followed Vera into the desert. The ground was hot underfoot. Silence stretched between them. No comms, no backup, no plan. Just 2 women walking toward a mystery that had already claimed lives. As they neared the entrance to the ruins, Lisa saw it. The circular hatch half buried in sand. It stood open. A soft blue glow pulsed from within. "He's already inside," Lisa whispered. Vera placed a hand on the stone archway. The glyphs along the edge began to shimmer. The air grew colder. "He is not lost," Vera said. "He is listening." Lisa swallowed. She thought of Daniel's face when he walked away. Not angry, just sad. Like he knew something she didn't. Maybe it was time she found out. She stepped into the darkness. Vera followed close behind. The hatch sealed shut behind them with a sigh. Below the surface, the world changed. The walls breathed with light. The floor hummed under their feet. And far ahead in the heart of the ruin, a single sphere of blue light floated in the air. And standing before it was Daniel. Motionless. Eyes wide. Tears on his cheeks. He wasn't dead. He was remembering. The chamber was silent except for the low hum of the sphere. Blue light pulsed like a slow heartbeat, casting long shadows on the black stone walls. Daniel stood still as if frozen in time. His face wet with tears, his hands hanging loose at his sides. He did not turn when Lisa and Vera entered. He just kept staring at the light. Lisa took a step forward, but Vera caught her arm. "Wait," she whispered. "He is not alone." Lisa frowned. "He's by himself." "Not in his mind," Vera said. "The Corps shows what is hidden. It does not lie. It does not punish. It simply reveals." Lisa looked at Daniel again. His shoulders trembled slightly. Not from fear, but from something deeper, like he was holding something too heavy to carry. "What is he seeing?" she asked. Vera's voice was soft. "Your past, your pain, the things you bury so you can keep moving. The Corps does not care about rank or duty. It only asks one thing. Will you face what you have lost?" Lisa thought of her own losses. Her brother in the Mars riots. Her first squad on Ceres. She had filed reports, moved on. Never spoken their names out loud. Not once. Maybe that was the problem. She walked slowly toward Daniel. Each step felt heavier than the last. The air grew colder. The hum louder. When she was just a few feet away, he finally spoke. "It's not a weapon, Lisa," he said without turning. "It's a song. A sad one, but beautiful." "What do you mean?" "It's showing me everything. Not just Kalari memories. Ours too, human pain. All of it. The wars, the accidents, the quiet deaths no one talks about. It's all here. Held together so it doesn't disappear." Lisa's throat tightened. She looked at the sphere. It flickered. For a second she saw a face, her brother's, smiling, then gone. She gasped and stepped back. Vera moved beside her. "It knows you are ready," she said. "Am I?" Lisa whispered. "You came without armor, without orders. That is the first step." Daniel turned then. His eyes were clear but full of sorrow. "I'm sorry I walked away, Lisa, but you were shouting at the wrong enemy. The real danger isn't out there. It's in here." He touched his chest. "We keep our grief locked up like it's weakness, but it's not. It's proof we loved. We cared. We tried," Lisa wanted to argue, to say that soldiers couldn't afford to feel too much. That emotion got people killed. But looking at Daniel, At the peace in his eyes despite the tears, she wasn't so sure anymore. "So what do we do now?" she asked. "We listen," Vera said, "and we remember together." She walked to the center of the room and raised her hands, palms up. The sphere pulsed brighter. Images filled the air. Not just pictures, but feelings. The taste of rain on a dead world. The sound of a child's laugh lost to time. The weight of a final goodbye. Lisa saw her brother again. Not just his face, but his voice, his jokes, the way he'd ruffle her hair when she was small. She hadn't let herself remember that in years. Now it flooded back and she sobbed. Daniel put an arm around her. She didn't pull away. For hours they stayed in the chamber. The core showed them more. Not just loss, but love. Not just endings, but beginnings. The Kalari had not built this place to mourn. They built it to honor. To say we were here, we mattered. When the vision slowed, the sphere dimmed to a gentle glow. Lisa wiped her face. Her eyes were red, but her chest felt lighter, like a stone had been lifted. "Why didn't you tell us this sooner?" she asked Vera. "Because truth cannot be given." "Lisa Carter," Vera replied. "It must be felt. You would not have believed me. You needed to stand here yourself." With open hands, not clenched fists, Lisa nodded. She understood now. This wasn't about technology or power. It was about courage. The courage to face what hurts. They climbed the spiral stairs back to the surface. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky in violet and gold. The wind had calmed. The red dust lay still. Back at the dome, Lisa sat at the comm station. She opened a new log. Not a mission report. Not a threat assessment. Just words. She wrote about Jenkins, Ramos, and Choi. Not how they died, but who they were. Jenkins loved old Earth jazz. Ramos sent letters to her niece every week. Choi could fix anything with tape and hope. She wrote about the core. About memory. About the danger of silence. Then she sent it to Fleet Command. To every colony. To every ship. The next morning, the human fleet arrived. Big ships with admirals in crisp uniforms. They expected weapon secrets, maybe a new energy source. Instead, they found 3 people sitting in the sand sharing water and quiet. Lisa stood to meet them. She wore no armor, just her uniform. She told them the truth. "There is no weapon here," she said, "only a memory. And if you are not ready to carry it, you will break under its weight." Some admirals laughed. Others grew angry. One called it a waste of time. But a few stayed. A young engineer named Maria sat with Vera for hours. A medic named Tony entered the chamber and came out crying but calm. Even the ship's captain, a stern woman named Helen, listened. They did not take the core. They did not study it or scan it. They simply honored it. Days turned into weeks. The human camp changed. Drills stopped. Meetings shifted from tactics to stories. Soldiers began sharing names of those they'd lost. Not in briefings. In circles. Under the stars. Vera taught them Kailari songs. Wordless tunes that carried grief like a river carries rain. Lisa and Daniel helped translate the old texts. They learned that the Kailari had not vanished. They had chosen to fade, so their pain would not poison the future. They left the core as a gift, a warning, a bridge. One evening, as the suns dipped below the horizon, Lisa sat beside Daniel on a flat stone. "Do you think Earth will understand?" she asked. "Not all of them," he said, "but some will. And that's enough." She looked at him, really looked. He seemed different, softer but stronger, like he'd found something he didn't know he was missing. "What about us?" she asked. "Are we still soldiers?" Daniel smiled. "We're something better now. We're rememberers." Lisa liked that word. Rememberers, not fighters, not conquerors. People who carry light into the dark. In the distance, Vera stood at the edge of the ruins, her silhouette sharp against the glowing sky. She was no longer alone. Humans came to her now, not with questions, but with silence, with open hands. The resonance core still pulsed deep below the sand, but it no longer felt like a threat. It felt like a heartbeat, steady, patient, waiting for the next soul brave enough to listen. And for the first time in a long time, Lisa felt hope, not the loud kind that shouts and charges, but the quiet kind that sits with you in the dark and says you are not alone. The end of Part 2. Weeks passed on Xerxes 3. The human camp no longer looked like a military outpost. Tents once lined in perfect rows now formed loose circles around small fire pits. Voices rose not in drills but in stories. Someone would speak a name, my sister Maria, and others would nod or add their own. Grief was no longer hidden. It was shared like bread. Lisa watched it all from the edge of the main circle. She still wore her uniform, but the stiff collar was unbuttoned and her boots were dusty from walking the ruins with Vera. Daniel sat nearby, carving small figures from scrap metal, faces of those they had lost. He gave one to Lisa. It was her brother. She kept it in her pocket. One morning, a new ship landed. Not military. Civilian. Its hull was patched and painted with stars. Out stepped a woman named Claire. She was thin with tired eyes and a datapad clutched to her chest. She walked straight to Lisa. "I read your log," she said. "My daughter was on Ceres. She died in the ice storms. No body, no closure. Just silence. Your words. They helped me breathe again." Lisa didn't know what to say. She just hugged her. More ships came after that. Not for weapons. Not for science. For healing. Families of the lost. Counselors. Poets. Even a school teacher who brought children's drawings from Earth. Pictures of heroes they'd never met but now remembered. Vera welcomed them all. She showed them the entrance to the chamber but never forced anyone inside. Only those ready stepped down. Some came out crying. Some came out quiet. None came out unchanged. Then came the day the Admiralty sent orders. Recall all personnel. Dismantle the camp. Classify the core as restricted. Seal the ruins. Lisa read the message in the dome. Her hands shook. "They don't understand," she said to Daniel. "They never do," he replied, "but we can't let them bury this again." That night they held a meeting under the twin moons. Claire spoke first. "If they lock this place away," she said, "then my daughter's memory becomes a secret again. I won't allow that." Others agreed. Even the ship's captain, Helen, stood up. "I've served 30 years, she said. I followed orders without question. But this is bigger than rank. This is about being human." They made a plan, not a fight, a stand. When the Admiralty shuttle arrived 3 days later, it found the entire camp gathered at the ruins, not with guns, with voices. They formed a human chain around the entrance. Lisa stood at the front, Vera beside her, Daniel behind them holding the metal figures like talismans. The shuttle door opened. Out stepped Admiral Croft, a tall man with sharp eyes and a tighter jaw. He looked at the crowd and frowned. "This is a direct order, Lieutenant Carter," he said. "Stand down." Lisa did not move. "This place is not a threat, sir. It's a gift. Gifts don't vaporize soldiers," he snapped. "They do when we treat them like tools instead of teachers." She replied, "We lost 3 good people because we came with weapons, not respect. Now we've learned. And we won't let that lesson be locked away." Admiral Croft's eyes flicked to Vera. "And you, alien, is this your doing?" Vera stepped forward. "I did not teach them to remember. I only showed them they had forgotten how." The Admiral looked around, at Claire holding her daughter's photo, at the children's drawings taped to a rock, at the quiet faces of soldiers who once only knew how to obey. He sighed. "You realize this breaks every protocol?" "Yes, sir," Lisa said. "But sometimes the right thing isn't in the manual." For a long moment, no one moved. Then the Admiral turned to his aide. "Cancel the seal order. Mark this site as protected. Cultural heritage. Non-military access only." A murmur of relief ran through the crowd, but he pointed at Lisa. "You're still on report, Carter?" She smiled. "Worth it, sir." After he left, the celebration was quiet. No cheers, just handshakes. "Shared water," a song Vera sang that made the stars seem closer. In the weeks that followed, the camp became something new. Not a base. A sanctuary. They built low stone walls not for defense but for gathering. They planted hardy Xerxes moss in memory circles. Each patch bore a name. Lisa and Daniel stayed. They were no longer soldiers in the old sense. They became guides, helping newcomers face the core when they were ready, teaching them that strength isn't in forgetting, it's in remembering well. Vera began to change too. Her skin lost some of its glassy hardness. Her voice grew warmer. One evening she sat with Lisa watching the sunset. "My people thought we were protecting the galaxy by vanishing," she said. "But silence is not protection. It is abandonment. You have given our memory a home again. You gave us the chance to listen," Lisa said. They sat in comfortable silence. The wind carried the sound of distant singing, human voices learning Kailari tones. Months later, Earth sent its first official delegation. Not admirals, historians, therapists, artists. They came to learn, to record, to build a bridge between species not with ships but with stories. Lisa stood with them at the chamber entrance. She no longer feared the blue light. She respected it, honored it. As the first delegate stepped inside, Lisa turned to Daniel. "Do you think we did the right thing?" He looked at the stars. "We didn't just save a memory, Lisa. We gave grief a place to rest. That's more than right. That's necessary." Back on Earth, news spread. Not of a weapon found, but of a wound healed. Schools began teaching about Xerxes III. Not as a battle site, but as a place of peace. People started sharing their own losses openly. Memorials changed from cold stone to living gardens. The resonance core never left the planet. It didn't need to. Its message traveled on human lips in Kaolari songs. Years later, Lisa would sit with children from the new colony built near the ruins. She'd tell them about Jenkins Ramos Joy, about her brother, about the day anger turned to understanding, and when they asked what the core really was, she'd smile and say it's the sound of a universe saying you are not alone. Vera lived to see the first human Kaolari memorial built, a spiral of stone and light echoing the chamber below. She placed her hand on it, and for the first time in centuries she felt peace. Daniel never left Xerxes III. He carved faces until his hands grew old. Each one a promise. Each one a prayer. And Lisa Carter, the soldier who once shouted in anger, became the woman who taught others how to listen. In the end, they did not conquer the stars. They connected them, one memory at a time. 10 years after the first human stepped into the resonance chamber, Xerxes III was no longer a red wasteland. Green shoots pushed through the dust near the ruins, fed by recycled water and careful hands. Small domes dotted the plain, not for war, but for learning. The place had a new name now. Valen's Rest, named after Vera and Lisa together, though neither had asked for it. Lisa was older now, her hair streaked with gray. Her steps slower, but her eyes still sharp. She walked the memory paths every morning. Stone circles lined the trails, each one holding a name, a story, a small offering. A toy, a letter, a smooth stone. Visitors came from all over human space and beyond. Some Kaolari even returned. Not warriors. Seekers. Drawn by whispers of a place where silence was broken with care. Daniel was in the workshop behind the main dome. His hands were stiff with age, but he still carved. Now he taught others. Children sat cross-legged on the floor, shaping clay or wood into faces of those they missed. He never called it art. He called it listening with your hands. One morning, a young woman arrived alone. She wore a faded flight suit and carried a small pack. Her name was Nora. She stood at the edge of the central circle, staring at the entrance to the ruins. She did not move for hours. Lisa noticed her at dusk. She walked over slowly. "You don't have to go down there today," she said gently. Nora shook her head. "My brother was on the Prometheus, the ship that vanished near the outer rim. No signal, no debris, just gone. They said it was an accident, but I think he's still out there somewhere, waiting." Lisa sat beside her on the warm stone. I felt that way too. About my brother? For years I hoped he'd walk through the door, but hope can become a cage if you don't let it breathe. Nora looked at her. "Did you go into the chamber, Ice?" And it didn't give me answers. It gave me space to ask better questions. That night under the twin moons, Lisa told Nora the full story. How anger had nearly destroyed everything. How Daniel had walked away, how the core had shown them that grief was not weakness but connection. Nora listened without speaking. Tears fell, but she did not wipe them away. The next morning she entered the chamber. She was down there for 2 days. When she came out, her face was pale but calm. She found Lisa by the moss garden. "It showed me him," she said. "Not how he died, but how he lived, laughing, fixing engines, singing off-key in the shower. It felt like a hug." Lisa nodded. "That's what it does. It gives you back what you thought you lost." Word of Nora's experience spread. More came. Not just the grieving, the lonely, the guilty, the ones who carried shame they never spoke of. The chamber held them all. It did not judge. It remembered with them. Vera was rarely seen now. She spent most of her time deep in the ruins near the core. Her body was failing. Kaolari did not live forever, but her presence remained strong. She spoke less, but her silence carried weight. One evening, Lisa found her sitting by the glowing sphere. Its light was softer now, like a lullaby. "You are fading," Vera said without turning. Lisa sat beside her. "We all are. You have done what my people could not. You made memory live again. We learned from you." "No," Vera said. "You chose to listen when others would have fired. That was yours alone." They sat in silence as the sphere pulsed gently. Images flickered. Kailari children playing human hands, planting seeds faces from 100 worlds. Then Vera placed a small obsidian disc in Lisa's palm. It was warm. Inside swirled a tiny light. "This is my last memory," she said. "Not of war, not of loss, but of this, of sitting with you under quiet stars. Keep it. When I am gone, let it remind you that even the last can find peace." Lisa held the disc close. "Thank you." A week later, Vera did not wake. She was found in the chamber curled near the sphere as if in sleep. Her skin had turned to smooth stone over time, a Kalari custom. Her final form, the whole colony gathered, not for a funeral, for a song. Daniel led it, a mix of human words and Kalari tones. Nora played a flute made of reed. Others added voices until the sound rose like smoke into the violet sky. They placed Vera's stone form in a new circle at the highest point of the ruins. Around her they planted the first true Xerxes flower, pale blue with silver veins. It bloomed only where memory was honored. After that, Lisa felt a shift. The work was no longer about healing the past. It was about building the future. She and Daniel started the first school on Xerxes 3, not for tactics or tech, for empathy. Students learned to listen before they spoke, to sit with pain before they fixed it. They studied history not as dates but as lives. Nora stayed. She became a guide like Lisa. She helped newcomers face the chamber with open hearts, not empty hands. Years turned. The green spread. Trees grew from earth brought from 100 worlds. Children played where soldiers once marched. The resonance core still hummed below, but now it was joined by laughter, voices, songs. One day an old man came. He wore no uniform, just a simple tunic. He walked slowly to the main circle. Lisa recognized him instantly. Admiral Croft, retired, alone. He stood before her. "I came to say I was wrong." Lisa offered him water. "You were doing your job." "My job was to protect people," he said. "Not just their bodies. Their souls, too. I failed that. Until you showed me another way." He stayed for a month. He entered the chamber, came out weeping. Then he helped build a new memory circle for fleet personnel lost in service. When he left, he hugged Lisa. "Thank you for teaching us how to be human again." Daniel died on a quiet morning. He was carving a figure of Vera when his hand stilled. They buried him near the workshop under a young tree. Lisa placed his last carving, a small human and Kalari hand in hand on his stone. She kept walking the paths, slower now, leaning on a cane, but still listening. One evening as the twin suns set, she sat with a group of children. They asked about the old days, about anger and armor and storms. She told them the truth, that the strongest thing she ever did was not fight, but stay and listen. And as the stars blinked awake above Xerxes 3, the resonance core pulsed softly below, holding every story, every tear, every hope, forever. 50 years after the first humans set foot on Xerxes 3, the red dust had nearly vanished. In its place stretched fields of silver grass that shimmered in the twin suns. Trees with blue leaves lined the paths between domes made of glass and living wood. The ruins were no longer broken. They were woven into the heart of a living city. Valen's Rest, now home to thousands from over 200 worlds. Lisa Carter was very old. Her hair was white, her skin thin like paper. But her eyes still held the same fire that once shouted in anger, and later learned to listen. She lived in a small dome near the original command site. Every morning she walked, slowly with a cane carved by Daniel decades ago, to the central circle. Children ran past her, calling her teacher or elder or sometimes just Lisa. She never corrected them. The resonance core still pulsed deep below, but it no longer needed guardians. It had become part of the world's breath. People came not just to grieve, but to celebrate, to mark births, weddings, promises. The chamber was no longer feared. It was honored. One spring morning, a young boy named Kai found Lisa sitting by Vera's stone. He held a small clay figure in his hand. "I made this for my mom," he said. "She's on a long mission. I miss her." Lisa smiled. "Then you should tell the core. Not to bring her back. Just to hold your missing until she returns." Kai nodded and walked toward the entrance. Lisa watched him go. His steps were light, fearless. That was the miracle. The next generation did not see pain as something to run from. They saw it as part of love. Later that day, a ship landed unlike any before. It was sleek and silent, its hull made of woven light. No human design. No Kalari mark. It bore symbols no one recognized. From it stepped three beings tall and slender with skin like moonlight. They moved with grace and spoke in soft chimes. They carried no weapons, only a single orb that glowed faintly gold. They asked for Lisa Carter. She met them at the edge of the green fields, leaning on her cane. "I'm here," the tallest being bowed. "We are the Lyrans. We have heard your song across the void." Lisa frowned. "Song your memory practice, your chamber, your circles. Word has traveled farther than you know. On our world, grief is forbidden. To mourn is to be weak. Many suffer in silence. Some vanish rather than speak their pain." Lisa's heart ached. "That sounds familiar. We came to ask if we may learn." A council was called that evening, not in a war room but under the great canopy tree where Daniel once taught carving. Humans, Kilari, Lyrans, and others sat in a wide circle. No leaders, just listeners. The Lyran speaker told their story, how their people erased loss from history, how children were taught to forget parents who died, how sorrow was seen as a flaw in the mind. The result was a society that looked peaceful but was hollow inside. Lisa listened. Then she spoke simply. "You don't need to fix grief. You need to welcome it. It's not a crack in you. It's a door." The next day, the Lyrans entered the chamber one by one. They stayed for days. When they emerged, their eyes were wet, but their posture was straighter. One wept openly in the square. Others gathered around not to stop her but to sit with her. They stayed for months. They learned to build memory circles, to carve names, to sing the old songs. They even began writing their own stories, truths they had buried for generations. Before they left, the lead Lyran gave Lisa a gift, a seed from their homeworld. It glowed softly in her palm. "Plant it where memory lives," she said, "so our sorrow may grow into something beautiful too." Lisa planted it beside Vera's stone. Within weeks, a sapling rose with leaves that shimmered like tears in sunlight. As the years passed, more ships came. Not for war, not for trade. For healing. Xerxes III became known not as a planet, but as a promise. A place where no one had to carry their pain alone. Lisa grew frailer. She stopped walking the full paths. But children brought her stories. They read to her from new memory logs. They showed her drawings of faces they honored. She smiled often. One evening, as the twin suns dipped low, Nora, now gray-haired and wise, sat with her. "Do you think it will last?" Lisa asked. Nora held her hand. "As long as someone is willing to sit with another in silence, yes." Lisa closed her eyes. She dreamed of Daniel carving by firelight, of Vera singing under stars, of Jenkins laughing over old jazz tunes. She was not afraid. She died 3 nights later in her sleep. Her hand rested on the obsidian disc Vera had given her. It pulsed once softly, then stilled. The whole city gathered, not in mourning but in remembrance. They did not bury her. They placed her in a clear dome at the center of the great circle, surrounded by the carvings. Daniel made the letters from earth, the clay figures from children. Vines grew around it over time, weaving her into the living world. Her last words were carved into the stone path leading to the chamber. "Listen not to fix, but to be with." Decades turned into centuries. The city grew but never lost its heart. The resonance core remained deep below, but its lessons spread like roots through the galaxy. Wars still happened. Losses still came. But now, when people fell, they were not left alone in the dark. On 1,000 worlds, memory circles bloomed. In schools, children learned to say, "I miss them." In fleets, captains held silence for the lost before battle. Even old enemies sat together and shared grief and found peace. The Lyrans returned many times. Their world now had forests of glowing trees, each one planted for someone remembered. They called it the Lisa Grove. And on Xerxes III, the twin sun still rose each day, painting the silver grass in gold and red. The wind carried songs in many tongues. And deep below the earth, the core hummed, not with power, but with presence. It said without words what Lisa had lived. You are not alone. You were loved. You mattered. And as long as someone remembers, you still do.